settings, but we're still rolling. We're still on track. We're still making progress. So I believe, if I understand it, while I'm making a YouTube, it kind of, if I'm doing it live and then there are comments during the live and then I save the video and put it up so that people can watch at a later point in time. If I do that, the comments get lost and I look like I'm talking to myself. And sometimes there are comments and I just don't want to be dividing my attention. I'm not very good at focusing on multiple things at the same time. So what I would like to try and do is focus on the step in the process that I'm actually interested in sharing, and I will work on playing with the settings and everything. So we are going to keep it rolling. I've taken my cup of glue. I still have enough, I think, to do today, but if I don't, we'll make a little more. No problem. And we're still rolling on our 6 shoes. So last time we did, no, where did my other one go? Last time we did the top coat on our 3 king cake shoes. Here it is. We did the settings, the top coat on our king cake shoes. So these are almost done with their glitter. So the last thing they need, real quick. And I mean, if it's not, I say real quick, but it's okay if it takes the time it takes. We still have plenty of time between now and Carnival 2027. It sometimes feels like it will be here in no time, and it can creep up on you a bit, but all right. I'm already feeling a little better about not worrying about trying to divide my attention. So I think this is the move. I think as you learn new formats, your settings kind of change a little bit. Coat of glue, because a Muses shoe, every surface needs to be glittered. That's what makes it a work of sculptural art and not an accessory. I almost said just an accessory, and shoes aren't just an accessory, but a Muses shoe is a piece of art. All right, so I'm gonna set that down to dry, and probably by the time I get through the coating, I'll be able to kind of flip it up and do the heel. Actually, it occurs to me that I probably did that in the wrong order. All right, so I'm gonna pop this in the dehydrator. That's my dehydrator. I'm gonna pop that one in the dehydrator, but what I'm gonna do on the next ones actually is do the heel so that I can flip it. Because if I do the sole and then I flip it up to do the heel, it's a bigger surface area. I'm asking for it to be dry. The topography of that might not make sense to everyone, but it makes sense to me. All right, so I'm doing the heel. Didn't need to do that part, but it's fine. 6 of 1, and because it's all monochrome, I don't have to worry about keeping my edges clean. I can overlap into those other spots, and it's no big deal. All right, she's gonna dry. All right, third one. And so I think I should be able to get the last glitter coat on these, which is exciting because it means our next session is going to be putting our fake frosting onto our king cakes, which is very fun, and we love that. I need to dig around and see if I have sequins in my stash to do the edge. I'm definitely going to do a lower edge. I need to check for sequins, and I need to also check for light champagne gold trim. But a king cake is pretty forgiving. All right, so I've done the heels on those. I'm gonna let that dry while I work on my pizza. So let me see where we were last time on our 4 slices of pizza. So these were the 4 that we did last time. And we jumped around a little on the pizza slices, which I don't, oppose that, but I would like it to feel kind of linear so that if people do want to kind of put it on and maybe I can organize it. I don't know enough about YouTube quite yet. Maybe I can organize it into a playlist and when you're ready to do, I don't know. That doesn't make sense because you'll need to pause for the drawing too. I don't know. I'm still figuring it out. We're all still figuring it out. So what I want to do on these is they have a top coat of silver here. They don't have a first coat of silver on their soles. So that's what we're going to do. One, two, three. Whew. So after taking a week off for Carnival, Craft Culture is open again. So that's very wonderful, and also like a little trying to get the head back into the zone. We are doing our best to keep it well stocked, but post stock, it's Carnival, stocking post Carnival is one of the biggest challenges we face, because understandably we go through a lot at Carnival time, and we try to keep our shelves nice and plump as best we can. But we are a small business. We are frail human beings doing the best we can. All right, so, oh, I made a strategic error here. This is not something you should do. You should make sure you have your glitter before you put your glue on. I was pretty confident it was on my table, but many, many times I've been like, ooh, I'm going to do this fun thing. And I get my glue all set and I'm ready to go, and I have to go like, oh shoot, where's that jar of glitter I just bought? And I have to go like dig around in my purse and check my bag and check the car. And wait, no, not this bag, the other bag. So that is very much a do as I say, not as I do situation, but try if you can to get all your ducks in a row before you put the glue on. Because the glue is not going to dry out like instantaneously. It's not like as soon as you put the glue on there, you have to like race against the clock. But you are going to be a little bit more at ease if you have all your materials ready. And so I'm doing this at a slightly strange angle because I do want y'all to be able to see what I'm doing. What I'm doing is just with my brush, carefully spreading my glue mixture, medium carefully. I am going to do top coats on top of all of these. So if I have some crosstalk or some bald spots or just anything that wasn't like 100% the way I ideally envisioned it, I can fix it when I do my top coats. I can also spill a little bit. But the nice thing about working in batches is I'm doing silver on all of these, so like if I spill a little, it's all silver. And it's a little strange to hold this shoe at this angle, but strange isn't intrinsically bad. So that's I was talking about in another live how, I guess not another live, a video, I guess they're videos. I was talking in another video about how a little bit of the 1mm silver confetti in the ultrafine really makes the silver shine. It's really got that beautiful, like, scintillating effect, and I'm very into it. Boop, boop, boop. I noticed that this heel is like a little bit chewed up, like not literally chewed up, I assume, but like a little bit beat up. Probably like, it's seen some things in the world. Sometimes when that happens, I put like one little fake tomato, or I could do like a can of pizza sauce or something like that. I'm going to think about it. I might do something cute there. When it all comes together, it may be that it doesn't bother me so much, but you always have options. So I'm setting that down. I've got two more, and you can see this is, I don't know, I always seem to miss the very back of the heel. In the many shoes I've done, the many years I've been doing this, for some reason that is just my little blind spot. But it's okay. I see a spot where I didn't quite cut the heel, where I didn't quite trim the strap off as cleanly as I would have liked. When it's all said and done, I'll take a look and see if it needs to be trimmed back a little more. But in cases where I take the straps off the shoes, I usually find that the trim covers up any number of sins I may have committed. And I am going to do another coat, so it's not essential that I touch that bald spot up right now, but it doesn't hurt anything. While I'm doing it. Pretty. I love DEA Badge Silver with Sail On Silver Girl. It's just a really nice, bright, like sterling silver. I'm sorry you're rubbing my eyes. I feel like I did not have allergies in my youth, but suddenly I seem to. And I feel like, whew, I am not usually an allergy sufferer, but I do hear that New Orleans is like next level. last one of the 4. And what we will probably do today, because we're only 10 minutes in, and you know, I want to keep it rolling and there's nothing wrong with a short session. People very often ask me like, oh, how long does it take you to do a shoe? And it's incredibly hard for me to tell because like I do 10 minutes here and then I go, you know, move the laundry, or I do 5 minutes just a touch up real quick before I run to do something else. And I don't know how to total all that up. So this is going to be fascinating for me. So I'm going to be able to look at it and say, all right, I did this many sessions, this many minutes total. And granted, I take some time to kind of detour and talk about this and that and the other. You know, I do ramble, but I think building some ramble time in is valid because a lot of people work on their shoes socially, like in groups. And so, you know, a little ramble time is a valid buffer for your calculations. Also, I go pretty fast because I've done it a lot. I've definitely put my 10,000 hours in on this, which, I mean, I say that, but that's I think it's not a worthwhile place. Not a worthwhile place, by which I mean it's a worthwhile place to have invested my energy and my learning. So I have no regrets about that. Sip my fizzy water. So I go pretty fast. So maybe my chitter chatter, it's like D&D when you like roll with advantage and with disadvantage. And so you roll it flat. So my chitter chatter artificially inflates the time that it takes to do the shoe. But my experience and speed racer moves counter it. So we're just going to roll it flat. So I will be curious though, if anyone like follows along, if they feel like, I would love to hear from y'all. If you're like, oh, I started the video and I did my shoes kind of with you and it was about right, or I finished faster than you, or it took me a lot longer, or maybe slow down so it's a little more representative. That would all be terrific feedback and I would be grateful to have it. Okay, so I'm gonna give my stuff a little bit more dry time. So what we're gonna do is start making our, I could, as I mentioned previously, I have a bunch of pizza slices that I'm doing because I've saved up a bunch of those shoes. And in a previous video, I sort of jumped out of order and showed y'all how to do the crusts on these. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to work out of order. What I am going to do is talk about our pizza toppings. And I just about finished the kind of approximate step-by-step. It's a rough schematic, but it's a sort of like session 1, do this, session 2, do this. This is your shopping list. So I will post that probably on my Instagram. I'm going to see if I can figure that out. If you are even slightly familiar with my style of content, if indeed we can even call it that, I, over time, just increasingly am looking for ways to empower people to make throws, to feel good about making stuff, and to like share my tips and tricks and my ideas and what's rattling around in my head. So empowering people is very important to me. So I started out with a blog, and then I started doing in-person workshops, and then I started trying to do more like tutorials that were in a more easily dispersible format, so videos and kits and things like that. So it's constantly evolving. I'm constantly figuring out what makes sense. Okay, so we are going to work on our pizza toppings. And I have some leftovers from past years because I often make a decent, bake a little batch of king cakes, bake a little batch of pizzas, and then you have some cute, ready to roll throws. So we're going to be making little like pepperonis. These probably need some touching up, but that's fine. So we're going to make some green peppers and some little pepperonis. So I have lots of craft foam scraps. You could absolutely use scraps, and that's kind of what I got here. This one I already got started, but we'll pretend for the purposes of demo that I didn't get it started. It's not going to hurt anything to put an extra coat on it. So you are going to cut out the little circles for the pepperonis and the little half semicircles for the pepperonis and little like rectangles of green pepper. But it saves you time so that you aren't sitting there like, it is kind of aggravating to like not aggravating. It is tedious, shall we say. It is labor intensive to sit and like. So to give yourself a little bit of a shortcut, I would do the entire sheet, both sides, then cut it out and touch it up. And that's just going to give you a slightly more efficient approach to making all your little fake glitter toppings. So first session, we mixed our bell pepper mix, and it was, I had a little bit of Nikki, a little lime green, a little bit of like Grace's green card. I put a little Gumbo Z in there because I think she gives it a real pretty kind of vibe. I can't remember what all I put in there, but a mix of greens. Oh, and I put my little like confetti from Sharknado because I thought that was funny. So that's a fun memory. Every time I look at those pizza shoes, I do love that about Muses shoes. I say that I make them all through the year, and like I try to kind of incorporate stuff that's like going on, like current events or things that I think are fun, or like, oh, I was really into this color scheme this summer. And like that way, if I do that, when I put all my shoes on the float and I'm having that moment in my community where I'm having my ride and sharing my shoes, I get to like revisit all these moments that I had the whole year. I get to have this moment where I like all at once receive all these little postcards that I mailed to myself. And I think that's incredibly special. I think I am extremely grateful for that. So what you're going to do if you're doing something like this, where you kind of have, this is how I would do like leaves and flower petals and stuff, and we'll get into that. But I'm going to have 2 sheets of paper. One is for glue, one is for glitter. Don't glue on the glitter page, don't glitter on the glue page. And the reason for that will sort of become apparent. I'll show you. Let me check if I have any paper that isn't white in my scrap paper pile, because that'll make it really easy. Boop, 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 boop. Now it's mostly old homework and I guess I can use that. All right, that'll help. That'll maybe help you see what it looks like. Thank you for bearing with me. All right, glue page, glitter page. I'm gonna take my glue and just paint it all on there. And this is not gonna be all the glittering that we need to do. We are gonna have to do the edges once we cut out our little rectangles, but it just saves us a little step. And you do need to, you can't put glue on the whole thing. You need to leave yourself a little spot to pinch it. And how big of a spot to pinch it depends very much on, you know, what your dexterity level is, what your hand comfort is. All right, so you can maybe see the glue has gotten on my extra sheet. The border around, I went all the way across the craft sheet and then some, so that I got the whole edge. So that means there's glue on, there's glue on my glue page. So if I glittered now on this, I would lose a lot of glitter. It would, not a lot of glitter, but we don't want to waste glitter. Glitter, not litter. We don't want to waste it, so we try to be efficient. And the best way to do that is to have a sheet that is a sheet of paper for your glue and a sheet of paper for your glitter. And if you're doing little stuff like little flower petals or little leaves, I do a lot of ivy leaves when I do my tile light up beach shoes. If you're doing those, you really get a lot of glue on the page and you'll really start to have a lot of glitter just sticking to that page. So because I didn't have glue on my glitter page, all my glitter went back in my jar. Beautiful. All right, so it's a little hard to see because the light isn't super bright in here, but that has been glittered on one side. I actually had glittered this side already, so I'm gonna pretend that I didn't so that the sessions are roughly how I want them to be. I am noticing, do I have my pins? Where's my box of pins? Here we go. I do notice, especially when you mix dregs together to make your like especial vert, I do notice a few big chunks of confetti, and I am gonna cut this up so it's not a big deal, but I do sometimes take a pin and just like remove unwanted confetti flecks if they're bothering me, which I mean, they don't bother me very much. I should have filtered all my glitter, but I don't like 100% know where my strainer is. I don't at all know where my strainer is. I've been cleaning my craft room, but I didn't do a full reset this year. But that's something you can do. You can take a pin, or I have some little tweezers. So if I found a flake of confetti that was bugging me, I can remove it with my little tweezers. All right, she's gonna dry. Next session, we will flip this over and do the other side. And then the next session, we will cut it up and start doing all the little edges. Oh, I have another little scrap here. She's already glittered on both sides, so I could probably just let her be. But I think I am gonna do another coat. She's been sitting for a minute, so she's probably gotten a little bit knocked around. So no harm in putting extra coats. There's never any harm in putting extra coats. It just takes more time. So like I always do 2 coats of glitter on my shoes. You could do more. It's just it doesn't really do much for you. Sometimes a semi-sheer, you get a little added depth. And so case by case basis on the semi-sheers. But if you do 2 coats, you can probably call it. You don't need to spend more time or glitter. You maybe need a little touch up here and there. But in cases like this where the demo is a lot of what I'm trying to get across, it's not a big deal to just add an extra coat. You may get to a point, I guess, theoretically, where if you do so many coats of glitter, if you get to like 4 or 5, you do kind of notice like the surface will get kind of like thicker. Like the shoe will start to feel kind of a little bit. It takes a while for all those glitter and glue layers to add up, is what I'm saying. So if you're in the range of like 4 or 5, then maybe, but these are ultimately going to have like 2 or 3 coats. Some of them 2, some of them 3. No biggie. All right. So I'm taking out my lumps, my bumps, and my confetti chunks, which is not mandatory, but if they're bugging you, I do not have any judgment of fixing them. All right. So that's another scrap of green pepper. And these scraps, these big pieces that I'm doing are definitely enough to do my 3 shoes. I'm doing many, so I'll go ahead and go pretty hard, but bear in mind that you might not need that much. And maybe if you're not planning to do a ton of pizza shoes, this is kind of one of those things where it's like, you pick your flavor of inconvenience. It's sort of aggravating to not make quite enough and then have to go back and make more once you're kind of out of the flow of doing that. So I err a little on the side of more than I need. And the more I do it, kind of the more of a sense I get of how much to do. There are some things where it's like, oh my gosh, I made a million of these ivy leaves. There's no way I'm going to use all these ivy leaves. And then I start to like sculpt a wreath or something. I'm like, oh geez, I didn't even come close. I got to go back. That tends to happen. Sometimes I get a little too optimistic. All right, so I'm going to do this sheet for my peppers. And this is a pretty big sheet. So I'll probably do it in stages. Okay. So same thing but this time I'm going to get my, all right. Sorry, y'all. I was propping the phone on my pepperoni mix, which, classic mistake. All right. So this is my mix of like burgundy, red, a little brown, and I have some chunks in there so it really looks like the kind of texture that you get in the pepperoni. So I am going to kind of do half of the sheet here, just spreading my glue. Easy peasy. And so by the time I am done with this, I can probably finish the king cake, the last of the second coats on the king cake. We're so close. We finished. That means we will be finished with the glittering for our first 3 shoes. And I do, full disclosure, have a couple of shoes that were pretty close, but I didn't quite get them over the finish line for 2026. So I do have a few extra shoes done, but it doesn't quite fit into what I'm trying to do in terms of like a regimen and a schedule and a plan. So I will have those and we'll see what happens. And I might work on other stuff on the lives, but I want to make sure that I have the bandwidth to do this thing I've committed to. All right, spread the glue on there. There's excess glue on my glue page, but I'm not going to pour glitter on my glue page. And actually, this is big enough that I'll probably take... Oh boy. Oh boy. I thought I was going to be clever. All right. I've got a big sheet of paper, so I'll probably just use this as my catcher. All right. Pepperoni glitter. And because I used all these kind of mixed little dregs that have contaminants in them, all the stuff on my pizza shoe is going to be a little more imperfect, which I think is fun. I think it looks like I have like spices and herbs and seasonings in my cheese and in my meat, and I think that's fine. I think that's a really efficient way to use up all my bits and pieces, because I think efficiency is really, sustainability in Mardi Gras is really important to me. And like I really love glitter, but I want to make sure I'm using my glitter wisely, like in terms of budgeting my throws, like I want to use the best glitter I possibly can, but that part of that means being mindful about how I get the most use out of things. Once my little jars have like a few little bits in them, I could throw that out, but if I'm smart about it, if I'm savvy, I can use all those little bits and pieces, and then more shoes, more people, more love, more sharing. All right. So I don't know if you can see in the diffuse light that that's nice and glittered. Yeah, that you can see like that. All right. So she's glittered. My, the start of my bell pepper slices is glittered. Gonna put that down to dry. I will put her in, I will probably put these in my dehydrator once my dehydrator is available, which is not quite yet. All right. And then I am bad at this. I got to put the lids back on things. It drives my husband slightly bananas that I tend to rest a lid lightly on a jar as though suggesting what it could have been. Okay. All right. Okie dokes. Okie dokes. So, fizzy water. All right. So, this was the very first shoe I did. So, today, I mean, though King Cake shoe was one of the earlier shoes. I guess it was technically one of the earlier shoes I did. So, my King Cake shoe, this is dry enough that I can do the heel. But on the others, you'll notice I did the heel first, and I'll show y'all why. So I need to move on to the next step, I need this to be dry. So that's why on the others I did the heel. It's just a smaller surface area, so it's less risky. But this is exciting. This is the very first one. Getting the last spot coated with its second coat of glitter. And that means we are just a hop, skip, and a jump away from trimming, embellishing, lettering. Maybe not a hop, skip, and a jump, but we're getting there. Slow and steady wins the race, baby. All right. And I gotta say, the Mod Podge Aleene's mix is absolutely rocking my socks this year. And do I have any, while I'm doing that top coat, I'm gonna do some little touch-ups. I see some spots that just maybe could use just a little whisper of love. Whisper, whisper. It looks like the sole, there's a little gap between the sole of the shoe and the like body of the shoe, and that little space just maybe didn't catch glue and glitter quite as grippily. And I am gonna trim that so it's not like, not the biggest deal ever, but might as well try. You know, you plan for the worst, hope for the best, plan for the worst. All right. So this is the last thing that needs to dry, and when it dries, it's frosting time. That's exciting. Progress is exciting. It's nice to... So these two, instead of doing the sole first and waiting for the sole to dry, We did the heels first, and so that just needs to be, that's only one spot touching the table. So it's just a little bit less surface area to worry about. And these do feel dry, so I'm not worried about it, but that's actually probably the proper order of operations when you're doing monochromatic shoes. So I would do inside and outside, top coat, let it dry. Heel, let it dry enough, so like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And if it does not feel dry to the touch because it's humid or because your glue was a little thicker or just because it's one of those days, I think glue can smell your fear. And so if you're rushing, I think the glue knows somehow and can tell that you're in a hurry and it dries slower. So if it's not dry after 30 minutes, don't push it. Just let it go overnight and get it the next day. But if you let the heel sit and it's dry, then you can do the sole and then rinse and repeat. So you can, in theory, so inside, outside, one session, heel, sole, second session, inside, outside, top coat on your third session, and then just like this is our fourth session. I actually stayed pretty on target for the king cake shoes. We'll see if I can keep that up. The absolute simplest possible shoe to do, the first time I tried to do it in this format, I managed to keep it on the ball. So it would be lovely if if I was able to carry that on. We'll see. I hope I know people will be chill with me and flexible with me, but we're trying. All right. Last one of the king cake shoes. And so the second coat goes on a lot smoother than the first coat in my experience. When it has that first coat of glitter there to kind of grip it, it just flows really nice, really smooth. Though these the Mod Podge and Aleene's did pretty good. I don't ever trust one coat, but it looked pretty good after one coat. So your mileage may vary. I know there are people who do one coat. I love that for you. I can't get an effect that I personally am satisfied with doing that. I really need the nice, even, consistent cover that I personally get from two coats. If you're going to do it, do it, in my opinion. But also, if you're happy with one coat, they are gifts. They are throws. You do not need to sweat the details if it's stressing you out. Okay, so what we have done today, about a half hour. This is session 4. First session, we put that first coat on our king cake shoes. Let it dry. Second session, we did the heel and the sole, the bottom. Let it dry. Third session, we did our second coat, our top coat on the inside and the top. Let it dry. And then today, our fourth session, we got the heel, let it dry for half an hour, and then did the sole. And so those are our king cake shoes. 1, 2, 3. So what we're going to do next time is put the frosting on these. And I think for 3 shoes, everybody does this kind of differently. I think for me, I do like it to be pretty generous. So I've got 2 jars of glitter snow. One of them is the old packaging and one of them is the new packaging. This got my tinfoil hat thing is that this got discontinued and brought back because the people of New Orleans demanded it be brought back. I believe that because so many of us, I think, use it for fake frosting. So I've got 2 jars of my glitter snow. So next time, session 5, we're going to apply the glitter snow. And I will go over this in more detail when we actually do it, but it's very important that you not put your sugar on the glitter snow. It feels kind of like it's got some dampness in there and maybe it could hold on to the sugar all by itself. And by sugar, I of course mean glitter. Don't put sugar on your shoes. The bugs will come and nibble it and then everybody will be unhappy. You want to put the frosting on there, let it set up, and I would say let it have overnight, but we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get into the frosting. And then once the frosting has set up, has hardened, and by frosting I mean glitter snow. Again, don't put frosting on your shoes. I hope it's clear when I'm jumping back and forth between frosting and sugar and king cake and pizza. I'm talking about fake glitter versions of those things. You cannot put your sugar directly on the wet glitter snow. You need to let the glitter snow harden. And then I personally like to put a little bit of some White Mist Scribbles on that. And I save my White Mist Scribbles bottles. We'll get into this more. I'm just giving you all a sense so you know, like, coming in the next episode. I save my bottles that are empty and I can't use anymore for transfers. I cut these open and I use with a little paintbrush. I get all my White Mist paint. I paint that on top of the frosting. I sprinkle my glitter on top of that. I let that dry. And sometimes, depending on what my topping was, I may even glaze on top of that. And we'll talk about frosting. We'll talk about icing. We'll talk about sugar. We'll talk about glazing when we get to those steps. But that is what's coming next. So we got 3 king cake shoes fully glittered. They just need their frosting and their sugar and their lettering and their trim. That's not so bad. And we got 4 actually. 4 pizza slices have their first coat of silver inside, first coat of silver on the bottom and the heel, and first coat of Baked with Love on the actual little pizza slice. And we got started on we took the first step towards making our little pizza toppings. So if we keep working on our pizza toppings while we finish up our glittering, and we add the pizza sauce and the cheese, we'll be ready to kind of assemble it all together. And what's nice about the pizza slices is you kind of do a bunch of little bits, and then you put it all together kind of quickly. I like things like that where I glitter all the little parts and then I glue them together. And it's like, oh, this went from not being a thing to being a thing. I enjoy the transformation. I won't say instant gratification, but very gratifying gratification. So that's where we are currently at. As I said, I will try to post my little write-ups if you want to follow along. If you experience a tutorial better in that format, you certainly are welcome to. That being said, good evening, good night, and I will see you guys on the next one.